The Galactic Union ship Eternal Harmony drifted silently through the debris field that had once been the mining colony on Proxima Beta. High Counselor Zixtal stood on the observation deck, their crystalline form reflecting the dim light of the distant star. Behind them, the ship's sensors continued to catalog the destruction. Twisted metal, frozen bodies, and the haunting silence of space. How many survived? Zixtal asked, their voice carrying the musical tones characteristic of their species. Captain Venra consulted her neural interface. 17, High Counselor. Out of a colony of 3,000. Her feathered crest drooped with grief. The quantum storm came without warning. Our atmospheric shields, they were useless against it. Zixtal's crystalline surface dimmed slightly, their species equivalent of closing their eyes in pain. This was the third colony lost to the mysterious quantum storms in the past solar cycle. The Galactic Union, for all its advanced technology and collective wisdom, was helpless against this new threat. The Council has reached a decision, Zixtal said finally. We must seek help from. They paused, their crystal structure vibrating with uncertainty. From the Deathworlders. Captain Venra's crest shot up in alarm. Surely you don't mean? Yes. The humans. The word hung in the air like a dangerous weapon. Earth had been classified as a forbidden zone shortly after its discovery 50 years ago. The initial survey teams had been horrified by what they found. A species that had evolved on a planet that should have been impossible to inhabit. But High Counselor, Venra protested. They're savages. Their planet experiences regular geological upheavals, extreme temperature variations, and toxic atmospheric events. Their bodies are riddled with symbiotic microscopic life forms. They consume substances that would be lethal to any civilized species. They survive. Zixtal interrupted. More than that, they thrive. And right now, we need survivors. The captain fell silent, but her crest remained agitated. Everyone in the Union knew about humans, though few had ever seen one. They were the boogeymen of the galaxy, a species that had evolved under conditions that would kill most sentient life forms within hours. Set course for the Sol system, Zixtal ordered. We'll maintain the quarantine boundary, but we must make contact. As the ship's engines hummed to life, Zixtal reviewed the classified files on humanity. The images still shocked them. Humans deliberately exposing themselves to radiation for something called tanning, willingly ingesting neurotoxins for pleasure, alcohol, they called it, and intentionally raising their body temperature through extreme physical exertion, exercise. Most disturbing of all were their military capabilities. While the Union had long since evolved past the need for weapons of war, humans seemed to have an almost instinctive talent for combat. Their history was a continuous series of conflicts, each more devastating than the last, yet somehow they had survived and grown stronger. The journey to Earth took 3 days at maximum speed. As they approached the quarantine boundary, they detected something unusual. Human ships were already there, waiting for them. Impossible, Captain Venra whispered. How did they know we were coming? The answer came in the form of a transmission, broadcast on all frequencies in perfect Union standard. Galactic Union vessel, this is the Earth Defense Force ship, Resilient. We've been tracking the quantum storm's effect on your colonies. We thought you might come looking for us eventually. Welcome to Sol. Would you like some coffee? Zixtal's crystalline form flickered in surprise. The humans had been watching them, had predicted their arrival. And what was coffee? The human ship was unlike anything in the Union database. Where Union vessels were sleek and elegant, this ship was angular, bristling with what appeared to be weapon systems and sensor arrays. It looked like it had been designed for war, not peaceful exploration. They're requesting permission to dock, Venra reported, her voice tight with anxiety. They say they have information about the quantum storms that we need to see. Zixtal considered their options. The Union was dying. The quantum storms were increasing in frequency and intensity. If there was even a chance these Deathworlders could help. Grant them permission. Zixtal decided, but activate all safety protocols and have medical standing by. The docking procedure was surprisingly smooth. The human ship matched their velocity perfectly, showing a level of technological sophistication that shouldn't have been possible for such a young species. The airlock cycled, and Zixtal got their first real look at a human. The creature that stepped through was tall by Union standards, encased in what appeared to be powered armor. It removed its helmet, revealing a face that was simultaneously familiar and alien. 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth full of sharp teeth that the human exposed in what Zixtal's database identified as a smile. "Commander Sarah Chen, Earth Defense Force," the human said, extending a hand in their traditional greeting gesture. "Sorry about the armor. Standard protocol when visiting new species. We found it makes everyone more comfortable if we contain our bacteria and environmental contamination." Zixtal was struck by the human's casual confidence. Here they were, face to face with an alien species, and the human acted as if this was a routine meeting. "You said you have information about the quantum storms?" Zixtal asked. Commander Chen's expression grew serious. "We do. We've been studying them since they first appeared in this sector. They're not natural phenomena. They're weapons, and we know who's using them." The revelation hit Zixtal like a physical blow. Weapons? But who would? "The same species that tried to invade Earth 50 years ago," Chen replied. "The reason you classified us as a forbidden zone wasn't just because we were Deathworlders. It was because you found us in the middle of a war we won against an enemy you didn't even know existed." Zixtal's crystalline form pulsed with shock. The classified files, the quarantine, the mysterious defense systems they detected around Earth. Suddenly, it all made sense. "We beat them back," Chen continued, "but they didn't give up. They just changed tactics. These quantum storms, they're test runs. They're trying to soften up the galaxy for invasion. We've been preparing for their return, building our defenses, improving our technology. But we can't protect the galaxy alone." "What are you proposing?" Zixtal asked, already knowing they wouldn't like the answer. Commander Chen's smile returned, but this time it wasn't friendly. It was predatory. "The Galactic Union needs to decide what scares them more, working with Deathworlders or watching their civilization be destroyed. Because trust me, High Counselor, what's coming is far worse than anything you imagine humans capable of." As if to emphasize her point, another quantum storm appeared in the distance, its purple-black tendrils reaching out like hungry fingers across space. But this time, Zixtal watched it with different eyes. Not as an unstoppable natural disaster, but as a weapon. And for the first time since the crisis began, they felt something new. Hope. Because if there was one thing the classified files made clear, it was that humans had a particular talent for turning other species' weapons against them. "Tell me everything," Zixtal said. Commander Chen nodded. "Better grab a seat, High Counselor. And maybe try some coffee. This is going to be a long discussion about how humanity is about to remind the galaxy why we're called Deathworlders." The command center beneath Mount Everest hummed with activity. 3 months had passed since first contact with the Galactic Union, and humanity's greatest military minds were gathered around a holographic display showing the latest quantum storm attack. Commander Chen stood at the center, her face illuminated by the purple glow of the hologram. Beside her, High Counselor Zixtal watched in fascination as humans moved with practiced precision, calling out readings and adjustments with a speed that made their crystalline form vibrate with anxiety. "Quantum storm approaching Centauri colony," a technician announced. "Category 4, dispersal pattern matching previous harvester attacks." Chen's eyes narrowed. "Deploy the resonance field. Let's see if our calculations were correct." The hologram shifted, showing a massive energy barrier forming around the colony. As the quantum storm made contact, something unprecedented happened. Instead of tearing through the shield like it had with Union technology, the storm's energy began to spiral inward, contained and controlled. By the first light, Zixtal whispered, their crystalline surface flickering with amazement. "You've done it. You've actually done it." "Not quite," Chen replied grimly. "Watch." The storm's energy continued to compress until it reached a critical point. Then, with a flash that temporarily overloaded the sensors, it exploded outward. But this time, the energy followed a carefully calculated pattern, forming a tunnel through space. "There," Chen pointed at a dark spot at the tunnel's end. "That's what we've been looking for. The Harvester's staging area." The revelation of what humans had accomplished in just 3 months left Zixtal speechless. While the Union had spent years trying to defend against the quantum storms, humans had turned them into a detection system, using the Harvester's own weapons to locate their hidden bases. "Admiral Santos," Chen called out, "is the fleet in position?" A holographic image of a stern-faced woman appeared. "Task Force Prometheus is ready, Commander. Just waiting for your signal. Remember," Chen addressed the room, "this is a reconnaissance mission only. We get in, gather intel, and get out. The Harvesters don't know we can track them yet. Let's keep it that way." Zixtal's form pulsed with concern. "Commander, even your most advanced ships can't survive a direct quantum storm impact. If the Harvesters detect you—" "With all due respect, Counselor," Chen smiled, "you haven't seen our most advanced ships yet." The hologram shifted again, showing 5 vessels unlike anything Zixtal had ever seen. Where normal human ships were angular and armored, these were almost organic in appearance, their hulls rippling with patterns that seemed to bend light around them. "Project Lazarus," Chen explained. "Ships designed to not just survive quantum storms, but to ride them. We reversed engineered the energy signature and built vessels that can synchronize with it. The Harvesters aren't the only ones who can adapt and evolve." The operation began without ceremony. The 5 ships slipped into the quantum tunnel, their strange hulls pulsing in rhythm with the energy surrounding them. Zixtal watched the feed with growing amazement as the vessels navigated what should have been certain death. Then everything went wrong. Multiple contacts. A sensor operator shouted, "The Harvester base. It's not a staging area. It's a full production facility." The hologram filled with hundreds of enemy signatures. The Harvester ships were bizarre geometric shapes that seemed to defy physics, their surfaces crawling with what looked like living metal. "Task Force, abort mission," Chen ordered immediately. "Get out of there." But it was too late. The Harvester fleet had already begun to move, cutting off the escape route. Zixtal's crystalline form darkened with despair. They had just witnessed the death sentence of 5 human crews. Then Admiral Santos's voice came through, calm and clear. "Commander, requesting permission to execute Protocol Omega." Chen's face hardened. "Admiral, that protocol hasn't been tested outside simulation. Neither had quantum tunnel navigation until today," Santos replied. "The crews knew the risks when they volunteered. Better to go out on our terms than theirs." After a moment of tense silence, Chen nodded. "Permission granted. Give them hell, Admiral." What happened next would forever change Zixtal's understanding of human warfare. The 5 ships stopped retreating and instead accelerated directly toward the heart of the Harvester fleet. Their strange hulls began to pulse faster, matching the frequency of the quantum storm perfectly. "Energy buildup detected," a technician reported, their voice tight with tension. They're turning themselves into quantum storms." The Harvester ships tried to scatter, but it was too late. The human vessels exploded in a cascade of purple-black energy, creating a massive quantum storm that engulfed the entire enemy fleet. When the sensors finally cleared, nothing remained of the Harvester production facility except scattered debris. The command center was silent. Zixtal turned to Chen, their form trembling. You sacrifice your own people." "No," Chen replied softly. "They sacrificed themselves. There's a difference." She touched a control, and new images appeared. The crews of the 5 ships, their faces proud and determined. They knew this might happen. The Lazarus ships were designed with one-way quantum drives. If cornered, they could convert their entire mass into a quantum storm. They chose this mission knowing it might be their last. But why? Zixtal asked, struggling to understand. Why would they volunteer for such a mission? Because that facility would have produced enough ships to overwhelm every Union world within a year, Chen explained. 25 humans traded their lives for billions of others. In their eyes, it was a fair trade. The images of the crew members remained on display as Chen called for a moment of silence. Zixtal noticed something strange. Many of the humans in the room were leaking water from their eyes, a reaction their database called crying, yet they were also smiling. "I don't understand," Zixtal admitted. "Your people are mourning, yet they seem proud." "We're proud because those 25 heroes just proved what humanity has always known," Chen replied, her own eyes glistening. "The price of victory isn't just measured in technology or tactics. Sometimes it's measured in courage, in sacrifice, in the willingness to do whatever it takes to protect others." She turned to face the alien diplomat fully. "That's what the harvesters don't understand about us, counselor. They think we're afraid of death. We're not. We're afraid of letting others die when we could have saved them." As emergency teams began coordinating with Union vessels to secure the area, Zixtal processed this new information. They had thought they understood human capabilities by studying their weapons and technology. Now they realized that humanity's true strength lay not in their tools, but in their hearts, in their incredible capacity for self-sacrifice in service of a greater cause. The harvesters had just learned a costly lesson. Humans weren't just deathworlders because they could survive anywhere. They were deathworlders because they had mastered death itself, turning even their own mortality into a weapon when necessary. And this was only the beginning. The Galactic Union's Emergency Council chamber was in chaos. Representatives from 100 species argued in their native tongues while translation algorithms struggled to keep up. High Counselor Zixtal stood at the center, their crystalline form pulsing with urgent patterns of light as they tried to maintain order. "The harvester fleet will reach the Orion Arm in less than 30 standard days," they announced, causing the chamber to fall silent. "Our latest intelligence suggests they're deploying a new weapon, something even the humans haven't encountered before." On cue, Commander Chen stepped forward. The humans' presence in the Sacred Council chamber had caused controversy, but after the Battle of the Quantum Storm, no one dared openly object. She activated a holographic display showing a massive harvester vessel unlike any they'd seen before. "This is what we're calling a stellar manipulator," Chen explained. "It doesn't just create quantum storms, it uses them to accelerate stellar aging. They can make a star go supernova in hours." The chamber erupted again, this time in panic. Several representatives began calling for immediate evacuation of their systems. Others demanded the humans share their quantum defense technology. "Evacuation isn't an option." Chen cut through the noise. "The harvesters can track quantum wake signatures. Every ship that jumps leaves a trail they can follow. They'll hunt down every evacu, every refugee. We need to stand and fight." "With what?" demanded the Zorn representative, his tentacles writhing in agitation. "Even your Lazarus ships can't stop a supernova." Chen's response was interrupted by an alarm. The holographic display shifted to show a live feed from the Proxima Centauri system. The stellar manipulator had arrived ahead of schedule. The massive ship looked like a mechanical spider web wrapped around a dark core. As they watched, it began to spin, sending out tendrils of quantum energy that plunged into the star's photosphere. "They're starting the sequence," Chen reported grimly. "Proxima Centauri will go nova in approximately 6 hours. There are 18 billion sentients in that system." Zixtal's voice carried the musical tone of extreme distress. "Even with every available ship, we couldn't evacuate a fraction of them." Chen touched her communicator. "Execute Operation Prometheus." The feed split to show hundreds of human ships appearing from quantum space around Proxima Centauri. But instead of attacking the stellar manipulator, they began deploying strange devices around the star. "What are those?" Zixtal asked. "Something we developed after studying the quantum storms," Chen explained. "We call them stellar anchors. They create a quantum field that stabilizes stellar matter at the subatomic level." The Council watched in amazement as the devices activated, creating a web of energy that countered the Harvester's attack. The star's surface churned as two opposing forces fought for control of its nuclear heart. "It's not enough," the Zorn representative observed. "The Harvester weapon is too powerful." "The anchors aren't meant to stop the nova," Chen revealed. "They're meant to direct it." As if on cue, more human ships appeared, towing massive arrays of quantum reflectors. They positioned themselves in a precise pattern around the star, creating a complex geometric structure. "You're insane," the Zorn gasped, realizing the plan. "You're going to try to channel a supernova." "Not try," Chen corrected. "We've simulated this 10,000 times. We know exactly what we're doing." The stellar manipulator's crew seemed to realize something was wrong. They tried to abort their attack, but the quantum process had progressed too far. Proxima Centauri's surface began to bulge. "And all ships, final positions," Chen ordered. "Quantum shields at maximum." The star exploded, but instead of expanding outward in all directions, the nova followed the path created by the human ship's quantum reflectors. Like a massive solar flamethrower, the concentrated stellar energy struck the stellar manipulator head-on. The Harvester vessel, for all its advanced technology, had never been designed to withstand the focused fury of a star. It disintegrated instantly, along with a significant portion of their support fleet. When the nova finally dissipated, Proxima Centauri had been reduced to a white dwarf. But it was still there. More importantly, the stellar anchors had protected the inhabited worlds from the worst of the blast. The council chamber was dead silent. They had just watched humans weaponize a supernova. "How?" Zixtal's voice trembled. "How did you even conceive of such a tactic?" Chen's answer was surprisingly simple. "We ask ourselves what the Harvesters would least expect. They think they understand stellar mechanics better than anyone. We just had to prove them wrong." "But the risk?" the Zorn sputtered. "One miscalculation, and you could have killed everyone in the system." "Which is why we didn't miscalculate," Chen replied. "Every human ship in that operation carried a quantum computer dedicated solely to running real-time adjustments to the reflection array. We had backup plans for our backup plans. When failure isn't an option, you make sure you succeed." The implications slowly sank in. Humans hadn't just adapted to the Harvester's weapons. They had found ways to turn those same weapons against their creators. Where other species saw only threats, humans saw opportunities. "The Harvesters thought they could break us by threatening our stars," Chen continued. "Instead, they taught us how to control stellar matter. Every weapon they use against us becomes a tool in our arsenal. That's why they'll never win." Zixtal's crystalline form flickered with a new pattern, one that their species reserved for moments of profound revelation. "You're not just fighting them," they realized. "You're evolving faster than them." Chen smiled, but there was a predatory edge to it. "Exactly. And we're just getting started. The Harvesters think they know what humans are capable of. They haven't seen anything yet." As the Council digested this demonstration of human adaptability, emergency reports began coming in. The Harvester fleet was changing course, retreating from the Orion Arm. For the first time since the war began, they were running away. They had finally learned what the Galactic Union was beginning to understand. Humans didn't just survive adversity. They thrived on it. Each challenge made them stronger. Each threat sparked new innovations, and each battle taught them new ways to fight. The war was far from over, but its nature had fundamentally changed. The Harvesters were no longer the hunters. They were becoming the hunted. The quantum storm alert came just as Commander Chen was reviewing the latest battle reports. But this time, something was different. The energy signature was massive, unlike anything their sensors had detected before. Multiple quantum ruptures detected, the AI announced. Harvester signatures, everywhere. They're hitting every major system simultaneously. The holographic display in the Mount Everest Command Center transformed into a three-dimensional map of known space, lighting up with thousands of red dots representing harvester vessels. It wasn't just an attack, it was an invasion. They're desperate, Chen observed, her voice tight. After Proxima Centauri, they realized we could turn their weapons against them. This is their response, overwhelming force. High Counselor Zixel's crystalline form pulsed with panic patterns. There are too many. Even with your quantum defenses, you can't protect everyone at once. No, Chen agreed, her eyes fixed on the display. We can't. She activated the global command channel. This is Commander Chen to all Earth Defense Forces. Implementation of the Ragnarok Protocol is now authorized. This is not a drill. I repeat, Ragnarok Protocol is authorized. The effect was immediate. Every human military officer in the room straightened, their faces set with grim determination. Many began activating previously dormant systems in their neural interfaces. What is this protocol? Zixtal asked, their form flickering with concern. Something we hoped we'd never have to use, Chen replied. Humanity's last resort. She turned to face the alien diplomat fully. Counselor, I need you to transmit an emergency message to the Union. Tell them to pull all their forces back to their core worlds. Any Union ship still in contested space in the next 6 hours will be at risk. At risk from what? At risk from what? Before Chen could answer, new alerts filled the display. Harvester ships were appearing in the Sol system itself, their quantum signatures distorting space around them. They found us, a tactical officer reported. Stellar manipulators detected near every star in the system. They're going to try to take out our entire civilization in one strike. Chen's response was not what Zixtal expected. Instead of fear or despair, she smiled. No, she said quietly. They're going to learn why you should never corner a Deathworlder. She pressed her hand against a biometric scanner, and a new hologram appeared. A complex network of quantum tunnels connecting every star in human-controlled space. For the past year, we've been building something, Chen explained. A quantum web that links our entire territory. We knew we couldn't defend everything at once, so we created a way to defend everything at the same time. The implication slowly dawned on Zixtal. You've connected your stars. More than that, Chen's voice was hard. We've weaponized space itself. Around every human-controlled star, hidden quantum devices began to activate. The fabric of space-time started to twist and fold in ways that defied conventional physics. The harvesters think they understand quantum mechanics, Chen continued, but they never asked themselves why humans, a supposedly primitive species, adapted so quickly to their technology. They never wondered why a species that evolved on a death world would have such an intuitive grasp of quantum physics. The answer appeared on the display, deep within the Earth's crust, in chambers that had remained sealed for millions of years. Ancient quantum devices were powering up. We didn't learn quantum mechanics from the harvesters, Chen revealed. We rediscovered it. Our ancestors built quantum devices millions of years ago, then buried them to protect us from ourselves. When the harvesters arrived, they didn't introduce us to new technology. They just reminded us of what we'd once known. The quantum web began to pulse with energy. Every star in human space synchronized, their quantum fields aligning in a pattern that seemed to bend reality itself. What exactly is the Ragnarok Protocol? Zixtal asked, though they weren't sure they wanted to know the answer. In Norse mythology, Ragnarok was the twilight of the gods, a final battle that destroyed and remade the world. Chen explained. We named this protocol Ragnarok because it does something similar to space itself. The harvester ships were now in position, their stellar manipulators preparing to trigger simultaneous novas across human space. But they had made a critical mistake. They had surrounded themselves with the very quantum web humanity had spent a year building. "The thing about quantum mechanics," Chen said, her finger hovering over the final activation switch, "is that it's all about probability and observation. Reality itself changes depending on who's watching and how they're watching it. We didn't just build a defensive network, we built a reality engine." She pressed the switch. Every star in human space flared simultaneously, not with the destructive force of a nova, but with something far stranger. The quantum web activated, and suddenly space itself began to reconfigure according to human parameters. Harvester ships found themselves in regions where their quantum technology simply stopped working. Others appeared in places where the laws of physics had been temporarily rewritten, their advanced hulls crumbling under forces they had never been designed to withstand. By the first light, Zixtal whispered, watching as reality itself seemed to bend to human will. "What have you done?" "We did what humans always do," Chen answered, her eyes reflecting the chaos on the display. "We adapted. The harvesters thought they could break us by changing the rules of reality. Fine. We just changed reality itself." The Ragnarok Protocol continued its work, spreading through human space like a wave of controlled chaos. When it finally subsided, nearly 80% of the Harvester invasion fleet had been destroyed or disabled. The remaining 20% were retreating in panic, their carefully planned attack transformed into a desperate rout. But the victory had come at a cost. The quantum web had burned itself out, the ancient devices were drained, and several stars showed signs of permanent quantum destabilization. "Was it worth it?" Zixtal asked, seeing the damage reports appear. Chen looked at the casualty figures, the millions saved versus the worlds that would take centuries to recover. "Ask me again in 100 years, she replied softly. "That's how long humans will need to repair what we just did to space-time. But we'll do it. We always do." As emergency teams began coordinating recovery efforts, Zixtal finally understood why humans were truly classified as Deathworlders. It wasn't just their ability to survive hostile conditions or their capacity for violence. It was their willingness to break reality itself before accepting defeat. The Harvesters had thought they were facing a primitive species. Instead, they had awakened something far more dangerous, a civilization that remembered it had once been gods and wasn't afraid to become them again if necessary. The war wasn't over, but its nature had changed fundamentally. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would humanity. 2 years after the Ragnarok Protocol, Commander Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of the newly constructed Galactic Union headquarters on Mars. The red planet's terraforming was proceeding ahead of schedule, patches of green already visible on its surface. Below, representatives from over 300 species gathered for what would become known as the most important diplomatic summit in galactic history. "The Harvesters have requested peace talks," High Counselor Zixtal said, their crystalline form reflecting the pale sunlight. "After what happened at the Battle of Broken Space, they finally understand they cannot win." Chen nodded, remembering the desperate final attack the Harvesters had launched 6 months ago. They had tried to use the damaged regions of space-time left by the Ragnarok Protocol, thinking the quantum instabilities would give them an advantage. Instead, they had discovered that humans had already learned to navigate and weaponize these broken spaces. "They don't want peace," Chen replied, her eyes fixed on the distant Earth, still bearing scars from the war. "They want time. Time to study us, to understand how we did what we did. Time to adapt." "Perhaps," Zixtal admitted, "but they also fear you now. Not just your weapons or your technology, but your very nature. You did something they thought impossible. You forced them to question their own superiority." The chamber below was filling with diplomatic delegations. Among them were faces that would have been unimaginable just a few years ago. Species that had evolved on worlds almost as harsh as Earth, previously shunned by the Union, but now recognized as valuable allies. The Deathworlders were finally taking their place in galactic society. "Did you ever find them?" Zixtal asked quietly. "The ones who built the original quantum devices." Chen's hand unconsciously touched the neural interface at the base of her skull. We found traces. The more we studied the ancient quantum technology, the more we realized. They didn't leave. They became us. The revelation had shaken human society to its core. The quantum devices hadn't been left by some vanished alien civilization. They were humanity's own legacy, buried millions of years ago, when their ancestors realized they weren't ready for such power. Evolution hadn't just made humans tough. It had been guided by their own forgotten technology, creating beings perfectly adapted to reclaim their heritage when the time came. The harvesters will try again, Chen continued. Maybe not in our lifetime, but they'll be back. And next time, they'll be better prepared. And humanity will be ready, Zixtal observed. You always are. Below, the summit was beginning. On the agenda was the formation of a new organization, the Deathworld Defense Initiative. Earth would train other hardy species in their methods, sharing the knowledge they had gained. The galaxy was beginning to understand that survival didn't come from avoiding challenges, but from facing them head-on. We're establishing quantum corridors to every known death world, Chen explained. Creating training programs, sharing technology. The next time the harvesters return, they won't just face humanity. They'll face an alliance of species who have learned to thrive in adversity. And the damaged space-time regions. Chen smiled. We're not fixing them. We're learning from them. Those broken spaces are laboratories now, teaching us things about reality we never knew were possible. The harvesters thought they would break us by damaging the fabric of space. Instead, they gave us new frontiers to explore. An alert chimed softly. The first quantum corridor was about to open, linking Earth to a distant death world, where massive creatures evolved under crushing gravity fought endless wars for territory. Their representatives would be the first to train with human instructors, learning not just about weapons and tactics, but about the Deathworlder mindset, the ability to see every challenge as an opportunity for growth. The Union Council still debates whether this is wise, Zixtal admitted. Training more species to be like humans, some fear it will lead to chaos.